Staying in this realm of technology, I'm going to transition to colleague and all-around amazing person, Renee Franzwa. We first met at South by Southwest down in Austin, and together with colleague Dennis Chenard, and we bonded. We had a lot of alignment on different aspects of teaching. Renee has a long history of being involved in at-a-distance learning, and she is now with Unity Technologies, and a lot of the VR work that I've experienced, a lot of web-based games, a lot of different types of experiences are constructed and co-constructed using the Unity game engine. Years ago, when it first came to be, and the company was trying to get into the North American market, I right away saw that potential, and I know that Renee will talk a little bit about that. So without further ado, Renee, thank you so much for joining us. I also wanted to just say that your background was also with EdSurge, and you're the Director of Higher Education strategy there. So I just wanted to add that to your list of fantastic cred in terms of this area of at-a-distance learning. So maybe tell us a little bit about what you're doing now at Unity from the lovely Lake Tahoe, and then whatever you were going to present on. Welcome, Renee.
Thanks so much, Patrick. Such a prestigious group, and I really appreciate, in my career, I've sort of oscillated between the academic and sort of technology and more public facing. And so working at EdSurge, I was executing on tens of millions of dollars from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, supporting transitioning institutions to adopt more distance learning and more digital learning. And so we invested a lot in a couple of years. And I think in the last couple of months, we've advanced things so quickly because of COVID that I look at what we accomplished over a few years versus what we accomplished in the last few months is just astounding. So it's obviously comes with a great turmoil, but also for folks in this room, I think we can all relate that it's an exciting time. And so I switched over to Unity about a year ago, and I just thrive and really look forward to the opportunities to have some of these academic, research-based, especially for those of you that are student-facing. I don't get to face students as often. I'm looking at 8 million learners, creators, users, and then the terminology changes when you're working in technology. So my heart is just pulling in all these great directions. So thanks for having me. Sam, you're right on cue. I can already tell we're going to be in sync. I did put a couple slides together just to keep me moving, because otherwise I get a little chatty. But yeah, just that's my background. I mostly manage the product that is called learn.unity.com. So much the same way that a lot of institutions are using LMSs and curriculum, we're looking at a singular platform that has both self-paced content, so you can jump in, jump out, get a tutorial, or do a fully self-paced course. And then I've just recently transitioned to focus on live learning. So these Zoom interfaces, how are we talking live with experts through Discord or Slack or Microsoft Teams? And how are these different tools really helping escalate what can be a very challenging experience? Hit me, Sam. Yeah, so I think everybody here is familiar with Unity on some level. It's the software that is being used to develop a lot of 3D interactive tools. It started with gaming, but we've really blown up outside of gaming. As Lee talks about the excitement of getting into VR, there's a lot of questions around safety, and that has been so in construction, obviously in medical, and then also just meeting adult learners where they're at. I think in education, the opportunities to leverage this kind of technology when folks are working full-time, or they're taking care of aging parents or young ones, or injuries or accessibility issues. Technology can really help meet those learners where they are. And in all of these different fields, you can really help your students think about not just gaming, but what else could you be doing and building with these interactive environments. And so the future's now. Hit me, Sam. Yeah, so if these are going to be a little bit slow to upload, they are little GIFs. I just say both now because it's just too political. GIFs. We've gone from 2D to 3D. We've gone from asynchronous to real-time interaction. We've gone from an individual experience to a very social experience. We've gone from passive to interactive. So I think that I just covered the next 4 slides, Sam. Oh, cool. The animations are working a little bit. Awesome. So what this means for me, and this is really like the area that I find really interesting, that bridges the academic and this experience that students are having and learners are having, whether online or in a full-time program, whether they're undergrad, graduate students, community college, whatever it might be, is that there's just tons of opportunity in this field. And the money is there, the hiring is there, and it's just ripe for this creative outlet. And so in 2019, those numbers really grew. And then here's the money. The titles that exist now are all going to change in the next 10 years. The students that we are working with now, any job that you could filter for on LinkedIn, the jobs that they're going to have they don't even exist yet, right? And so I feel like this is a new opportunity of limitation. I think when I met Patrick, he taught me in the improv world and in education that the more constraints we have comes greater opportunity and greater creativity. And I think that right now we're working within the constraints of this technology. And the more we have those constraints, the more creative we can get about the job opportunities that are out there. And the demand is very real. And it happens within AI and machine learning as well, which is also something that are some of the skills that are being developed. Go ahead, Sam. So I didn't run this past any of my colleagues. This is actually how I compartmentalize and think about Unity.
Which I love. That's great.
Yeah. And just this is sort of, when you think about learning a new skill, because let's just go outside of like learning Unity, you could be learning any skill. The more dynamic that skill development is, the more you internalize it. If you have to apply creativity as well as some mathematics and some constraints, as well as elements of storytelling, you have to read, you have to write, you have to create, you have to absorb. And I think that this is why going from working in, again, oscillating between academic and technology and working with, large numbers of users in the world, the global academic or the global learning market versus, a specific experience within a campus, this is something that I find universal, is that you really need to strain these different elements. And learning Unity is incredibly challenging. I have barely done anything in Unity personally because it's bonkers. It's really hard to absorb. We have 8 million people coming to our platform a year, and probably 90% fall off within the first few months because they just get so overwhelmed. So I think this is very similar to teaching in a COVID era. You've got these classes that you're teaching that can be really difficult for retaining not only the day-to-day attention of your learners, but also seeing them through to completion. And we're talking about Coursera and MOOCs. The completion is not really the goal. It's really about engaging people. If you look at completion rates for online learning, they're really low, but you have to stay focused on completion. And so thinking about retention is where I think the growth mindset model can really come in. If that's really tiny, Farhad, or do I just have something on my face? I can see you leaning in. I'll send the slides out afterwards. But I think growth mindset is something that I find really, really interesting, that is really applicable to learning Unity. And when it comes to being a creator in this world where you're going to tie the storytelling, the artistry, and the coding all together, is that you're going to have to look up answers. You're going to have to talk to experts, whether it's an instructor or your peers. You're going to have to really stress yourself out, and then you're going to have to create. And you're going to hit a roadblock, and then you're going to have to go back to asking those questions. And that's where that back and forth within that growth mindset, you're staying focused on what's the end goal. How is the difficulty not breaking me? Because that's the challenge I face in people learning Unity is, okay, I just can't do this anymore. So how do we create, these opportunities that you're really stressed, but you're still on that learning curve. You're still engaging. You can still see. Farhad, I saw you unmute. Did you want to pause for a sec?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Oh, okay, great. Just want to stay cognitive of my peers here. Feel free to interrupt anybody. So I think the growth mindset really engages all of that, and something that I think about, especially as I'm trying to match some of the self-paced learning to now meet folks with one-to-one, what we call life help, and how we're also creating on-roads for our learners to become educators themselves, how for them to become experts. Even if they're beginners, they can help others that are just downloading Unity for the first time. And creating those connections is really crucial. And then last, I just wanted to share all of, we do have a lot of ways that we're working with educators, institutions. These are just a few of them. These are hyperlinked in the slides, which I think that Sam, Patrick, feel free to share these afterwards. But we do have a lot of really great stuff for teaching Unity. Even if you just kind of passively check things out just as a pedagogical interest, I think it's kind of interesting because of that model of how much it engages the student for that creative. So there's some really great free stuff there, as well as a community associated to that. We do have certifications, especially if your learners are looking to directly plug their skills into what they're going to do after graduation. That credentials are super crucial. They are still our currency for students to be assessed by hiring managers and recruiters, but certifications are a great alternative as well as an add-on to that. And then of course, we've got a student plan, which is basically their professional license worth thousands of dollars that is totally free for students to use. And they get access to all those really great professionals that can help amplify outside of their campus experience as well. And I've got open to tons of questions or say more, but I'll go
That's
and stop
great.
there.
Awesome. Thanks, Renee.
Thanks.
Yay.